morning. That is my favorite prelude. I can't tell you how many times I have marched into a high school gym or auditorium to that music, and how much it means to me to think of our youngsters graduating. So glad you're here. I'm so glad we are celebrating graduations, that we are celebrating Pride Month, that we are celebrating life. Are there any announcements that anybody would like to make? Ardith, come on up to the microphone.
Okay, good morning. Peggy is in New Mexico, and she asked me if I would make the social outreach announcement. So this is just a reminder that Second Parish has joined with other churches to do the lunches for the veterans who are living at the Anderson Veterans Home. We're doing the lunches twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, and the sign up to do the lunches is full, so thank you. And the iconic brown bags and the individually wrapped condiments are in the kitchen in Cushing Hall. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Good to know that everything is in the kitchen. And speaking of the kitchen, there will be coffee after the service, and so you are all welcome to join in Cushing Hall. Are there any other announcements? Lee, come forward, please.
Good morning, everybody. I would like to, since it's my last day today, I wanted to thank Sean. Sean, could you come up for a minute? I wanted to thank you in front of everybody for everything this year. You have been, I don't have the words to say how amazing you've been with the kids and with me. You anticipate what's needed before I even need to ask you anything, and you know what each child needs. You know, you give them something to squeeze if they're getting a little antsy. You give them the security of being able to act out because they trust you and love you. And thank you so much. I'm going to start to cry. Oh, I'll see you in the fall. But I love you, Sean, and I know the kids do too. This is just a small little token of our appreciation from the RV committee. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be working with you next year. He'll be our full-time assistant. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lee, and thank you, Sean. Sean is such a gift to our Sunday Adventures program. We are delighted that he is with us next year as well. That is great. And should I announce our new assistant in training? All right, Molly Stevens is going to be our assistant in training. So we are thrilled and blessed with leaders as children. So thank you so much. Are there any other announcements that anybody would like to make? Susan. Thank you, Susan. The annual meeting will be next Sunday immediately after church. It will happen here in the sanctuary. If you are unable to attend in person, please get in touch with the church office and we'll figure out how to get the annual report to you and a Zoom address so that you can follow along. But if you can be here, I think it's a wonderful opportunity to sort of get the overall picture of what we have done this past year, which has been fine, and what we hope to do in the future. Thank you, Susan. Are there any other announcements? Good morning, Molly and Caleb and Lainey. Any other announcements? Then our service will now begin. The Nobel Prize writer V.S. Naipaul reminds us that one isn't born oneself. One is born with a mass of expectations, a mass of other people's ideas. And you have to work through it all. There are milestones in that process of working through it all. Milestones we recognize today as we honor all graduates. May we join in celebrating their courage and their persistence and their promise. The graduates I know about are Victoria and Matt Bella, who is graduating from Thayer Academy, Lisa and Babas Walker, who is graduating from Hingham High School, Lou, John, Susan, and Kurtz Madison, who is graduating from Boston University, pre-med, Pam and Chips Lissa, who is graduating from Emerson College, graduated with a master's in publishing and writing, Sandy and Bernice Sophia, who is graduating from Lincoln Sudbury High, and Lynn and John's grandson, John, who is graduating from Bridgewater University. If you know of other graduates, I certainly hope you will write their names and where they are graduating from on the index cards in the pews, which is where we write our joys and our concerns that are later shared. But let us think of these youngsters throughout our service and be grateful for all the love and the work and the care that has gone into their being raised, and all the work and the love and the care that will go into their making their own way. I would like to invite John to please come forward and light the chalice this morning. And as he does, I invite you to join your voices in repeating the covenant of Second Parish, the promise we make to each other every week, which you will find in your order of service. With love for each other, and with respect for each person's search for truth, we unite in the Spirit of Jesus for the worship of God and the service of our neighbors. Thank you, John. And now I would like to invite any children and young adults to please come forward to the front pew, and puppets. Good morning. We have Sam Bam.
Sam Bam Ham here reporting to duty.
Oh, I'm glad. And
Lee.
Lee. And
Molly.
Molly. Hi. And
Sean.
we already saw Sean. And another.
Molly.
What's the name?
Molly.
Another wonderful Molly. And a silent Caleb. How fine. So, do you know, because I don't think you remember because you're too old, how babies tell their mommies, their daddies, that they're hungry, what do?
Cry.
They cry. I wonder what that sounds like. Is anybody up to letting us hear what a cry sounds like? Okay, go ahead. Wah. Good. Anybody else?
Wah.
Okay. How about we all do it together, okay? Wah. You know, there's some days you just want to cry. All right, Sam Bam. Okay, thanks. And after the babies are alive for a while, sometimes they know how to say, no, don't feed me that. By doing what? What do? Do they cry? No, they don't cry. Molly, any idea what they do?
Well, sometimes they like turn their heads away and like push the spoon or something.
Very good. Sometimes they push things away. Yeah. And then they grow older and older and they get words. Oh, what is the wonderful word that a child learns when they don't want something? They say,
Thank you.
no, thank you. Very good. Thank you so much. Wow. You know what all that is? That's what we call graduating. Funny word, huh? Graduating. You move from crying to pushing to a very polite no thank you. And today we celebrate people who graduate. Isn't that wonderful? That as we get older, we learn how to communicate, how to talk to people so that they can understand what we want more clearly. And as we get older, like Sean's pretty old, he not only can communicate clearly, but he can figure out what he wants. And Molly Stevens, you can do the same thing too. You've got a good idea of, well, there's all these possibilities. This is what I want. What's hard to do, though, all the time, is to figure out first what you want and then how to say it so other people understand. Wow. How about a round of applause for graduates who are figuring that out? Let's just clap our hands. And let's think about those mommies and daddies who are trying to understand what their children, their young adults want, because that takes effort and love too. So let's give a round of applause for them, okay? That's what I'm going to talk to the adults about. But upstairs, what are you going to be doing, Lee?
Oh, well, I'll tell them we're going to talk about blessings.
Blessings.
What is a blessing? Yeah. Wait, excuse me, I'm about to sneeze, Red Steph. Achoo!
God bless you, Sam.
Thanks, Mom. God bless me. Oh, that's a blessing.
That is a blessing.
We're going to talk about blessings, about sneezes and other things.
Well, let me tell you something, Sam Bam, and let me tell you something to all of you. You are a blessing. Yeah, you are. That means we're glad you're here. You make our lives better. And look around. These people are a blessing. I think Sean's right. We should applaud them too. Let's do that. So now you're going off to Sunday Adventures, and I would love a fist bump as you go by. Okay? All right, so Mark, go now in peace.
Here we go.
They certainly are a blessing, aren't they? Our responsive reading will be found in your order of service. There we go. And it would be nice if I had the right order of service in front of me, so if you'll excuse me for a minute, I'll go up to the pulpit. This order of responsive reading is taken from Stephen Jobs' commencement address at Stanford University in 2005. Your part is in bold-faced italics. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. Susanna is now going to sing a song I especially requested, one of my very favorites, from the musical comedy Steel Pier, entitled First You Dream, which I would dedicate to all of our graduates. And I would ask you, if you have a joy or a concern, that you would be writing it on the index cards found in the pews. But do take time to listen to the words of this wonderful song.
First you dream about incredible things. Then you look and suddenly you have wings. You can fly. You can fly. But first you dream about remarkable times. Close your eyes and see how your spirit climbs. You can fly. You can soar. Feel the wind. Hear it roar. It's easy now. Imagine that. But first you dream. Here we are, high above the rooftops. There's a barn, there's a field of corn, and that little white house where another you was born. Isn't it fine? Isn't it fair? Being up here, looking down there. Take my
May we all remember to dream. If you have a joy or a concern that you have written on an index card, a graduate perhaps that I have not mentioned, please hold it up. The ushers will collect them. And as they do, I would like to announce a general joy for all graduates. I would like to announce that our soloist Susanna's wedding is this coming Saturday. And we, of course, wish her much love, much happiness. And we're so happy for her. Thank you. Thank you. Also, I would like to tell you of some concerns. First of all, a concern for our friend Sandy, who went into the hospital on Friday. But I talked with Bernie yesterday, and he said she is responding. I'm sorry, I'm laughing. She is responding to treatment and determined to go to her granddaughter's graduation party this afternoon. So that sounds like our Sandy. And also, I would like to tell you that our friend Philip is going home, Karen hopes, tomorrow from rehab. I hope you will hold all the people who are ill that I send out an email blast about in your hearts and in your prayers. There is so much that we are concerned about. So many dear people we know, so many people we don't know, but care about what is happening to them right now. And let me start now with your joys and concerns. This may be a joy and a concern. Purchasing a home on 629. Yes? Good, John. Not you. Oh, all right. Whoever is purchasing a home on 629, we wish you well. May everything go smoothly, financing, closing, moving day, and may it bring our family closer. Prayers for my family, Mom Joan, for good health. Thank you for that. A joy with a heart and a peace sign and a smiley face. It is going to be a joy to see Paul McCartney live this week. Thank you, Paul, George, John, and Ringo, for 60 plus years of great music. All you need is love. Bum, 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 bum. Thank you. A concern for my daughter Olivia, who is very sick with mono. We will certainly hold her in our hearts. Blessings to my niece Alyssa, who graduated from Norwell High School yesterday. That is a great joy. And congratulations to the Silver Lake High School class of 2022. I happen to know somebody who went to that graduation. Also someone who went to the Weston High School graduation. Wonderful. And thank you for requesting continued prayers for the people of Ukraine, that we keep them in our prayers and that our leaders find the way to peace. Let us reflect on all these joys and concerns, personal, worldwide, as we listen to Spirit of Life, and then we will pray together.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind,
Shall we pray together? Spirit of life, known by many names, held in many hearts, served by many hands. In our time together, may we recognize the strength we share and the hope we offer in our mutual experience of the world. Help us to lift our joys with gratitude, to honor our graduates for what they have accomplished, even if we understand that the road ahead of them will make ever increasing demands. May we treasure each milestone, recognizing how we work together through such celebrations to affirm the greater goals we can envision and the combination of new and venerable insight that can enrich meaningful endeavor. While we continue to mourn our broken world in this week of more shootings and the laying to rest of so many victims, help us to find our pathway to action beyond mourning, knowing that if what we can do seems small, it is the small actions that can grow into powerful movements. No matter what our age or abilities, help us to continue to care, to offer help, to serve. May the blessings of our unexpected strengths propel us forward as both models and servants of progress. We face our potential. We face our world's needs. We face our own questions and affirmations in the echo of the bell. And now if we could join our voices in the Lord's Prayer, Father, Mother, Parker Palmer's version. You will find it in your order of service. Heavenly Father, Heavenly Mother, holy and blessed is your true name. We pray for your reign of peace to come. We pray that your good will be done. Let heaven and earth become one. Give us this day the bread we need. Give it to those who have none. Let forgiveness flow like a river between us, from each one to each one. Lead us to holy innocence, beyond the evil of our days. Come swiftly, Mother, Father, come. For yours is the power and the glory and the mercy. Forever, your name is all in one. The offering for the good work of this church will now be given and gratefully received. As you give, may you think of all the ways that you do give, not only in money, but in time and in effort and in care and in love. And may you know how treasured every one of those gifts has been and will be. Thank you.
Lord is my shepherd, therefore can I lack nothing. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
In a commencement address, Maya Angelou reminds us that we find, quote, that among its other benefits, giving liberates the soul of the giver. May your souls be liberated by the many and eager ways in which you give to help others. Please rise for the doxology. Please be seated. Our reading this morning comes from a commencement address given by the novelist Barbara Kingsolver at DePaul University in 1994. And this is what she says. It is not, she says this to the graduates, it is not up to you to save the world. That is the job of every living person who likes the idea of a future. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and give you one little piece of advice, and that is like the idea of a future. Believe you have it in you to make the world look better rather than worse 7 generations from now. Figure out what that could look like. And then, if you're lucky, you'll find a way to live inside that hope, running down its hallways, touching the walls on both sides. Susanna will now sing Wonders Still the World Shall Witness, and if you would like to follow the words, they are in the gray hymnal, Singing the Living Tradition, number 139. Singing the Living Tradition, number 139.
Still the world shall witness, never glorying days of old, never dreamed by ancient sages, howsoever free and bold. Sons and daughters shall inherit wondrous arts dubious unknown. When the dawn of peace its splendor over all the world has thrown, they shall rule with winged freedom, worlds of health and human good, worlds of commerce, worlds of science, all made one and understood. They shall know all transfigured, which our eyes but dimly see. They shall make its towns and woodlands beautiful from sea to sea. For a spirit then shall move them, we but vaguely apprehend. Aims magnificent and holy, making joy and labor friend. Then shall bloom in song and fragrance, harmony of thought and deed, fruits of peace and love and justice, where today we plant the seed.
We are looking forward to the days of singing together and surely hoping for them in the fall. You know, every week we repeat the Second Parish Covenant. Not all churches do this. And I appreciate that sometimes you might get tired of repeating it. And some of you may say, you know, that doesn't fit with the Unitarian Universalist aversion to dogma. But I find it is important to acknowledge how we expect to treat each other, and I find it's important to remind it about it. So I was thrilled in a recent clergy conversation to hear somebody saying, you know, I think we ought to say the covenant every week, just so people remember how to behave. What I value is how a covenant expresses clearly the expectations in a relationship. And let's face it, we are in relationship with others, and once we are, we have expectations. We are in relationship from the moment we are born, and hopefully we grow, learning how to manage and communicate our expectations, perhaps at first by crying or pointing, as we explored in the Time for All Ages, but in time being able to identify what we choose or encounter through some sort of recognized language. Now, we all deal with covenants of a sort. Sometimes they're unspoken, That makes it harder, but we all deal with them. And covenants, when they are articulated, make things clearer. The concept of the covenant has long been important in the Western culture. There are multiple covenants in the Bible as God goes through a number of them, trying to help manage the expectations of the relationship between the divine and these, frankly, troublesome, newly created human beings. In the Hebrew Testament, God makes covenants with Noah, and then with Abraham, and then with Moses, and then with David. And then in the Christian Testament, God makes a covenant through Jesus. Even an omnipotent being, God, needs to work through drafts of a covenant, always trying to improve it. And it becomes clear as we trace the progress that covenants need to reflect insight and experience. And in part, that's because covenants are not easy at all to manage. Even though we all must do so and must do it constantly throughout our lives, even though we are always managing our expectations of ourselves and of others, and all of the ways that life imposes expectations on us. I think this is a good thing to remember now as we are in a season fraught with expectations, the season of graduation, of moving, of transitioning from one place in our lives to another. It is a season of transitioning for both parents and children. It is a season of new expectations all around. It is a season that society has traditionally respected, viewing it as a rite of passage with particular customs and promises and reassurances and music like Pomp and Circumstance, which I so love to hear at this time of year. But how does this rite of passage, how do these expectations feel to our graduates today? Whose expectations do they feel they must follow? Do they turn to adults and what adults want? Or do they turn to their peers and what their peers suggest? Or do they turn to social media and what it insists upon? Or do they turn to their own quest for self-realization? Our graduates today must deal with issues and challenges unique to these times. They have, after all, been schooled in the age of COVID. They have had the unique experience of home lessons, often hastily, if earnestly prepared, and Zoom experiences of the classroom. They have had the experience of masks and vaccinations and fear. They have not had all the in-person interaction we all associate with schooling. They have not known their fellow students and teachers in the same way previous graduates have. And neither do they face quite the same world that graduates of generations before them have faced. They face a world concerned with the effects of global warming, of mass shootings, of political attempts to define the beginning of life, of heightened awareness of racial injustice. Now, as you hear those, you can see that the issues they face are not totally new. There is some sense of cycling. But perhaps today the effects of these issues is felt with greater urgency and different urgency. Think of how earlier generations have faced challenging issues. 100 years ago, there was the impact of the Spanish flu, and then the social changes of the Roaring Twenties, the economic challenges of the Great Depression, World War II, the fear of the nuclear bomb in the Cold War, the hard work of civil rights, the women's movement of the 70s, more economic challenges at the end of the 20th century, the development of the internet, terrorism, and more economic challenges. It would seem that graduates always move into a challenging world with persistent expectations and complications. If we speak of greater anxiety in our youth today, it may in some ways be the expression of what has been present in the past, but either not acknowledged or else somewhat managed by factors no longer as influential as they are today, as they once were. But even those guiding factors, such as strong extended families, respected spiritual sources, government institutions of integrity, understood shared culture, still create expectations which need to be reconciled with the individual's expectations of themselves. As E. E. Cummings says in our centering thought, it takes courage to grow up and become who you really are. Because, of course, there are always voices to offer other expectations that one must honor or discard or adapt. Let's face it, we live in a stew of expectations because we are always in relationship with the world. Through love, through culture, through religion, sports, arts, education, and other things, we are always seeking to reconcile what these sources expect with what feels appropriate to our individual lives. Our struggle with expectations sometimes reminds me of the difference between a labyrinth and a maze. Labyrinths offer a clear, steady path to a destination. Old Ship Church has a labyrinth drawn on the floor in their parish house, and it is a very relaxing experience to walk that labyrinth because you know you will get to your outcome. There is a clear path. But mazes are filled with dead ends and misleading choices. Now, we might prefer to think of our graduates as entering a labyrinth as they grow up, guided by what we have taught them, guided by tradition, order, cultural clarity, values, providing expectations that help to offer them a clear path. But in truth, they are often more likely to enter a maze where dead ends, stops and starts, confusion slows their progress. Thus, it becomes crucial that of all the expectations that youngsters face, they and we recognize whose expectations might best help them at these moments of graduation. And the hard part, we must be willing to humbly accept the most constructive expectations, even if they differ from ours. Sometimes we believe such expectations are distilled in the advice commencement speakers offer. And so this past week, I have spent a great deal of time reading through commencement addresses. And there's considerable advice to focus on one's own expectations, which I believe fits with our national character and the age of most graduates, engaged as they may be in determining what truly matters to them. In our responsive reading, Steve Jobs emphasizes the expectations we should have of ourselves. He offers the importance of originality and fidelity to the self for graduates. Many of our youth are just discovering themselves, and any parent or anyone who loves a youngster knows It is a messy, painful process that demands room and forgiveness and support and endless love. But it's indeed necessary to understand oneself in order to proceed in relationship, to understand covenant and expectations. So, as Jobs puts it, you don't wind up wasting time living someone else's life. In the same way, Anne Lamott told the graduates at Berkeley, California in 2003, only spirit feeds spirit. In the same way, only your own blood type can sustain you. You need to be you before you can be a healthy part of anything else. So check the box for the graduates needing to be aware of their own expectations, even if they are just forming them. But beyond that, it is important to remind our graduates to listen not only to who and what they are, but they must also consider the world and the people around them as well. They will not inhabit the world alone, ever in relationship. They will constantly meet expectations from widening circles of community. Realistically, they must figure out how to balance the external expectations with their own internal ones. Kingsolver captures the need to acknowledge those external expectations in this morning's reading. She encourages the listening graduates to, quote, like the idea of a future, which is a wonderful statement of community. Future involves community. I hope you notice, though, that how she began, she acknowledged individual expectations, telling the graduates it's not up to them to save the world. And I read a few commencement speeches where the speaker said it's up to you to save the world, which I think is really a rotten thing to say. You know, you stand up and say, hey, we messed up, you guys got to straighten it out. And Kingsolver doesn't take that position. But she does advise them that they would do well to like the idea of a future, advice which, if followed, would direct them towards trying to at least make the world a better place. When she goes on to use that wonderful phrase, live inside hope, she refers to the merger of individual and community expectations that suggests a well-defined individual and an attentive community can reinforce each other to face the work that must be done, not only to survive, but to thrive. Now, last week, I read to you from Seamus Heaney's The Cure for Troy, and I particularly like his statement about hope and history rhyming. I think that is something that can guide us as we figure out what expectations a graduate must accept. Recognizing that history involves learning from errors, failing forward, as Stacey Abrams put it in a commencement address at Spelman College this year. Failing forward and living inside hope involves real, constructive, shared effort. Those ideas can guide our graduates in answering the question, whose expectations should I listen for? I believe they should listen for expectations that become the ones that make hope and history rhyme. In their own individual hearts and in the greater world. And the great task, of course, becomes understanding the balance among expectations that will guide us forward in our relationships to each other, to all creatures, and to the earth. I wish them well. And if you have any graduates in your life, I wish you well, too. Santosh Kalwar tells us that dreams are nothing but unclear expectations. One of our solos today told us that first you dream, and then used the words together now, together. May we all clarify our dreams, articulate our expectations, listen to each other, and together build the world we seek. Amen.